All right, what's going on, everybody? And welcome into HiBruiNation, your unofficial home of the Boston Bruins. I'm Goosey, and with me is my co-host in the Chavo, aka Mr. Steve. We are without Jack tonight, who is taking just a bit of a day off. He is feeling a little bit under the weather, so we hope he feels better. Tonight we got a good show. We're going to talk about this week's games as we always do. Swayman is responding. Steeves impacts, and not this Steve, not this the Chavo, but Steeves, Alex Steeves. Monty's return to the Boston Garden, McAvoy and Pastrnak updates, and we're going to give a little bit of an update on the stick away that we're doing as we progress through. Steve, welcome in. How we doing, brother?
Good. How we doing?
I am vibing. Another 2-1 week. Again, just the opposite of how I predicted it, but I will take it. I'm not going to complain.
Yeah. I was surprised by the win against the Devils, to be honest with you.
That was awesome.
And you know what? I marked it as a loss, and I'm okay to swallow my pride. You know, obviously, I'm trying to be the stats man here. But you know, it's one of those things where I was expecting the loss, but it was a pleasant win to, you know, again, increase our standings, increase our points, and you know, I'll take the win. It is what it is. I think they just outbattled them, and you know, I think from start to finish, it was an all-around good game.
I agree with you. I loved the play during the New Jersey game. I felt, and you know, I love the play in the St. Louis game too. I genuinely felt that Detroit, that away game was a bit of a wake-up call. You know, it was the first time Swayman was pulled. They definitely didn't start on time, which is weird because Michigan's not really that far from Massachusetts. Like, you know, in terms of a flight, these really aren't, you know, things that I think would really exhaust the team that much. But I loved that New Jersey game. I could talk about that all night. Did you see, and something that I loved, because I could watch good passing all day, the pass that Zacha made to Casey Middlestat for his goal?
Yeah, the
play of
tic-tac-toe?
the Arvidsson, the Zacha to Middlestat, that was clinical.
It was. I mean, it was tape to tape to tape. I think Brickley said that. And, you know, again, just tic-tac-toe, triangle, down low, and it worked. I mean, it's, again, we've talked about this before, old school Bruins hockey, but again, like there are things that work and there are things that don't work. And, you know, when you get a triangle down low in front of the net, that usually plays out pretty well across the league, right? Like the triangle works, and you know, it's about timing and about accuracy and passing. And I think that play right there was probably the best example all season of a play like that. You know, as far as the Bruins go, but I think even it's up there in the league, right? I mean, I haven't really seen too many goals like scored like that in the league this year, and I
Unless
think it
you're
was,
the Avalanche.
yeah, true. But I
They're
mean,
on a
there
kick.
hasn't been too many. You know what I mean? That's the only point. And it's just one of those things where, hey, when it works, right? You know, it could have been an opposite effect where, you know, the goalie could have, you know, stuck a stick out and deflected that pass across the crease, right? You know, it's just one of those things where when it works beautifully.
Right. Yeah, and I think, you know, it's good to start with the New Jersey game because then it would be a great pivot to Detroit, and we'll leave St. Louis for last. But I thought that the New Jersey game was exactly the kind of response that you wanted to see out of Jeremy Swayman. You know, like I mentioned earlier, he got pulled for the first time against Detroit on, I believe that was Tuesday, and I'll be honest, it was not his best game. Tuesday was not a good game for Swayman. You wish he probably would have had a couple of those. It's definitely not. It wasn't one of those games where you said like, oh, he's got to have that one back. It was like, oh, he's got to have like maybe those 2 or 3 back, and maybe you win that game. That was not his best game. But what a response during the New Jersey game. He had 39 saves on 40 shots. New Jersey's a talented team too. You know, it's and the Bruins are hurting for injury, like hurting on injuries. Like so, response of a game, great response.
It was. It's what you needed. You know, it kind of puts your faith back in Sway. You know, not just from like a fan standpoint, but from, you know, the team standpoint, where it's like, yeah, Detroit, got away from us as a whole team. And you know what? When Sway was in net, they responded. I think the final score was a 4-1 final score.
Against New Jersey, yes.
Against New Jersey. Again, like you said, 39 saves on 40 shots. It's one of those things where he responded, the defense responded, the offense responded, everything seemed like it was clicking very well. And then to the Detroit game, it was just a bad performance in total by the whole team. There were some that Sway should have had, right? Definitely. But also, there was some neutral zone breakdowns that were atrocious, and even worse defensive zone breakdowns that were even more atrocious. I felt like it was kind of like the snowball effect.
Yep.
And it just kept building and building, and it turned into an avalanche. And it was not the team's best performance by far. Swayman's probably worst performance this year. It was just total failure on all sides of the whole team. Offense, defense, goaltending. Even special teams. It was not good.
The Bruins actually were entering, I believe, the third period of that game only with one penalty. So that was good. They were on the right pace, and then the third period got away from them. And I think, what was unacceptable for me in that game, and I think you're right. Yes, it was Swayman had a bad game, but also so did everybody else. I don't think it was a up and down the lineup effort. So something probably just caught the team on a bad night. That's going to happen. I'm okay with having a bad night. If you can respond to that, I'm even happier. And they responded against St. Louis. But one thing I'll say about the Detroit game, and even Alexander Steeves said it after the game in a post game presser, where he said Detroit just got to their game a lot faster than we got to ours. I'm like, you know what? I like that answer, because that's the truth. You knew it, you acknowledged it, but now what are you going to do about it?
Yeah.
Show me what you're going to do.
Exactly. And to be fair, I do think his comments is probably the most accurate comments, right? It's not taking away accountability from the team about how their performance was lackluster, but it was the fact that you just beat these guys. You're kind of playing them on a home and home back to back, right? And now it's on their turf and in their barn, and they just. I generally felt like the Bruins got off to a slow start, and it just again snowballed from there. And opposite, the Red Wings got off to a hot start and just kept up the pressure the whole game.
Massive.
I mean, it was. If you're watching both those two games, it's a team of night and day between Detroit and Detroit in Boston and Detroit at home. It was definitely a night and day performance, honestly. And who knows, right? It could have been one of those things where Detroit, for all respect, just it wasn't their night. They had a bad game, and then they went out and responded. Right? It could be both of those things could be true at the same time. It's just, it was a night and day performance by Detroit, and I didn't even, I marked it down as an L, but I didn't think it was going to be like that. Right? I don't think the way it was going to go down, it was going to be the way.
Despite it at the end being a close game, because they only lost 5-4. So you know what I mean? The score does not determine how bad the game actually was. Because if someone's just looking at the scoreboard and they're saying, "Oh, the Bruins just lost to Detroit 5-4," yeah, okay, but you didn't see most of that comeback came in the third period. You didn't see the beginning of the game, how James Van Riemsdyk, I believe it was in the first period, was just allowed to walk in the way he did and just beat Swayman that cleanly. Again, that's something Swayman should have had. He was not fully square to where he should have been. But still, how is a guy like James Van Riemsdyk, who, again, is older, I don't think he's faster than half your defense, he just gets by you. It's one of those things. So, again, I think you're right. It was a bad night overall. It was a night and day from, obviously the Detroit game and, the St. Louis game and the New Jersey Devils game as well. It's mind-boggling. The score definitely did not. If you're just looking at the score, it doesn't tell the whole story, because you could be like, oh, it wasn't that bad of a loss. They only lost 5-4. Yeah, they lost 5-4 though in an otherwise convincing manner.
Yeah, it was very convincing that they lost. I mean, there was some kind of, like you said, the third period, there was some kind of
there was life.
there was life call to arms, so to say, right?
Yep.
Where they kind of tried to fight their way back into it, but it got pretty much. It was the nail was in the coffin, and through two periods, yeah, they started too late. You know what I mean? It was just they
Yep.
tried to crawl back into the game too late, and it just obviously didn't work out that way. I mean, like you just said, it was one of those things where the score wasn't indicative of how they actually played all three periods. They
Yep.
we talk about this, past few weeks a lot. It's like, hey, win or tie your shift out there, and you lost two periods. You know,
That's gonna be your favorite phrase.
it is. It is.
I'm gonna. That's gonna be like me giving Jack the wah. But you're right. But you're 100% right. Like, that's how you want to coach, right? Don't lose your shift, win or tie it. But obviously, you can't win or tie your shift every time, right? There's going to be losing games.
Yeah.
And I look at that kind of game on Tuesday, like Detroit. I'm like, okay, you did fight back, but you started late. So you did wake up, but it was the penalties that also gave me a concerning thing. By the way, when Marcus Delic got ejected for spearing, I don't know if there was much there. I couldn't tell. The refs had better eyes. I'm not going to speculate on that. But the majors definitely and the misconducts definitely hurt you when you are especially already down a defenseman because Michael Callahan was injured that game.
Yep.
So it's like, but now, okay, you go into there, you lose. What are you going to do next? And then St. Louis comes to town, and they gave it to them. Like they beat them 5-2. Monty's return, which I don't know how you felt about that though, Steve, because I couldn't watch the full video. It didn't seem like they really gave him much of a yay. It just kind of felt lackluster, giving him like his welcome back.
I mean, I'm not surprised though.
Oh, he's thinking.
It's one of those things for me where the only reason why Monty is so highly regarded is because of that team that set the record. And it wasn't because of
Yep.
Monty's coaching they set the record. It was because of the players that was on the Bruins team at that time playing balls to the wall all the time. Right? That perfection line, that last year of the perfection line was great. You had, you had four solid lines to win you those games, right? And I don't
Well,
think
that's what wins you hockey.
well, you're not wrong. I mean, we've said it before, but I don't think
Yeah.
the credit goes to Monty for winning those games. I mean, the team itself won those games because
Okay.
you had four lines and good defensive pairings and good goaltending to rely on. It was one of those things where, the team itself spoke for the record, right? It wasn't the coaching, any revolutionary coaching that does it. It was like, hey, yeah, you have Brad Marchand, Patrice Bergeron, and David Pastrnak on a line. There you go. You know what I mean? Like, you're obviously not gonna mess with something
Yep.
that's not broken, right? Like, and in the year after, we saw what happened afterwards, and it was very lackluster. His Monty's jumbling the
Well, they made the
line.
playoffs.
They did, but I don't think his style of coaching really worked out for you know Bruins fans in general, like with the changing of the lines constantly, like nobody liked that. And it was, oh, we're gonna do this, we're gonna do this now. Like it was just too
Awful.
much for us. And I think there wasn't a whole lot of accolades that he did himself because of his unbelievable coaching standards, right? I think the team was a good team, and he was just lucky enough to be the head coach at that time. I'm
You
not surprised by it.
you wouldn't be the only person that I've heard, like, kind of credit that season to more of the players than Montgomery. I would actually agree with you in that as well. I think I used to think that there was a happy mix of both, but like, after looking at that roster, I'm like, oh, well, you have Taylor Hall. I think DeBrusk was still part of the team at that point.
Mm-hmm.
You have a lot of these players, and like they're firing on all cylinders, man. And it's just kind of like, yeah, I mean, when you look at Florida, when they won the cup the second time in a row, they had Brad Marchand playing on their third line. Like, you know what I mean? When you have a perennial, like, 80 plus points goal, not goal scorer, but we have an 80+ point guy playing on your third line. Yeah, like no duh, you're going to perform well and potentially make a deep run, and that's the same way I looked at that 2022, 2023 team. It's like, well, there you go. Like, what else to expect? I think you could probably have Snoopy coach that team and they should still be able to make a deep run.
Yeah.
Despite losing to the Florida Panthers.
Yeah, which again, a couple of bad bounces don't work out your way. But you know what's funny? Even Brad Marchand being on the third line of that cup winning team, yeah, he still was number 2 in MVP contention, which is crazy as a third line guy, right? Like it just says how much talent is actually on that team, and it's just crazy to me that it's like, oh, this guy arguably should have won the MVP.
Yeah. Had Sam Bennett not gone on an absolute heater, yes, Marchand would have won that. Absolutely. Had Bennett not scored the amount of goals and points that he did, yes, Marchand was going to win that. And I don't think it would have been close. But then I do agree. Like, I was just a little surprised that they didn't do a little bit more for Monty. I mean, I guess his tenure was a little bit shorter. I think Claude Julien got better as he did. I don't think Cassidy got much in the way of anything because of the way in the terms and conditions of which he left as well. So it just seems like Claude Julien was the last person to kind of get that kind of recognition. And I guess Claude did deserve it. Like, he got them a cup. So, there is that. But
and his tenure was longer than both of them.
His tenure was longer. Yeah. But it's still on to the St. Louis game. And you kind of showed the difference of coaching because on paper, I think St. Louis, especially with the injuries, we're a better team on paper than you. Because you're out McAvoy, you're out Pastrnak, you're out some of your best players. So it's, for me, that's just what it was. But I believe St. Louis is now also hurting. So to me, it's also a coaching battle. I just love the way the Bruins came out and played them. I thought the Blues were soft a little bit defensively, and we got the better of them. And I'm going to take that win, dude. Admittedly, I didn't get to see much of the game. Beer league sucks sometimes on Thursdays. As much as I love the 8:00 game, I also hate it because that means I can't watch the full Bruins game.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a bummer. But again, a 5-2 win against a hot and cold team like you mentioned, I'll take it.
And they came out dead cold.
Yeah, no, that one I saw. I saw the opening period.
They came out flat. They came out so cold, flat, whatever you want to call it. Like, again, we talked about it last week where the team is just hot and cold, and it was not their night. I mean, and I'm not taking away from the win, but again, it's a hot and cold team. And when the cold team shows up, it's like, hey, like, you better win this game, right? And it was a pretty convincing win. I would almost argue it was a dominating win. They came out flying. It was a response game, right? And that's what you kind of need when it comes out where, you need a convincing win and you need to dominate. And they did. And, again,
they got 2 of them.
Yeah, they got 2 of them. Well, yes and no. I mean, when you lose a game like you just did, your first game back, you need to have a real response game, and I think that was their real response game, and I think they kind of just let it flow into the next game.
Yeah, I don't disagree there. And I listen. Good week, 2-1 week. I'm going to take it. And the Bruins are, I believe, they're 17-13-0, 34 points, second in the Atlantic Division because of it. Fuck, they're going to make me believe. Like, God damn it. You ever just sit there and just look at the game?
At number 2.
They are.
Yeah.
Well, they are. I believe they have the most, if not the second most games played in the NHL. So if we were to scale it, maybe they're not where they are.
Yeah.
But, those other teams that haven't played that many games yet still going to win the games ahead of them. So there is that. They are holding strong. They're finding ways to win, especially without their 2 best players. And, I'm going to exclude Morgan Geekie from that because no one expected Geekie to come out and play the way he has thus far. But I'm glad he did because it's keeping them in it. You're without McAvoy and Pastrnak. And that's a lot to be out. Your best defenseman and your best forward.
You know what? You're talking about your upper leadership of that team too, right?
Yes.
Pastrnak is your offensive leader, right? And Charlie McAvoy is your defensive leader on the back end, right? And they're still finding ways to win games out there without their leadership, and guys are stepping up to win those games, and it just seems like
Absolutely.
people are buying in and trying to step up into not necessarily leadership roles, but kind of like, hey, like we're not out of it. We need to keep performing, and it's time for someone to step up. Next man up mentality type deal.
Love it.
But it's working for right now. It's I don't know how they're doing it, but they're doing it.
You took the words right out of my mouth when you said the next man up mentality. And boy, have they ever. They are rising to that occasion. I'm genuinely impressed with some of the talent, or maybe it's the system that's benefiting them. I don't know. But the way they're playing to compensate for those losses is massive. I'll give credit where credit is due. Players like Steeves, Kuznetsov, Minton, they're elevating their game. And Elias Lindholm's playing to where I would like him to play. Geeky's playing exceptionally well. And then you have the line with Middlestat, Zacha, Arvidsson. And I thought Arvidsson was more of a third line guy. He's looking to start proving me wrong. And then you look at that third line. I will say I am upset they didn't call up Lysell this past week. I thought I was going to hit the nail on the head with that. Boy, did I miss. But you just look at these lines that you would just look at on any other team and be like, oh, this isn't that good. But they're just finding ways to get it done, dude.
Yep. I think having Arvidsson back now too really helps kind of stretch the ice, because he's got
speed.
He's got speed, and his passing, right? I mean, I think we were kind of sleeping on it, but I'm not obviously we talked about that goal that he kind of started where he got the secondary assist there, but I think his passing is as it kind of stood out to me, past couple of games where I was like, wow, he not only does he have wheels, but he is kind of like a heads up, not necessarily playmaker, but playmaker-esque, right? Where it's like, oh, he's getting it to the right spots, right? And doing those things. And he's using his speed, and he's using, kind of the hockey IQ to, stretch the ice and expand it open. And, it's kind of like one of those intangibles where, you're putting it together using your hockey IQ to move the puck, open the ice, stretch the ice, and it's working for him. It's working for him.
And I think one thing that I've noticed is with this team is that they're adjusting on the fly.
Yeah,
they are. They are with all these injuries. They're adjusting their play style in terms of their game a bit. It's not major adjustments, but they're doing it just enough to the point where they know what needs to get done in order to complete the assignment, and they've done it. There's obviously been games where you're going to miss, or you run into a hotter team than you, or a better team than you, at least on paper, and they're going to show it on the ice translationally. And so that's going to happen. That's fine. There's an 82 game season for a reason, you know what I mean? That's what you're going to see. But I'm just impressed through 30 games that the Bruins are where they are, provided with all the injuries that they've had. And just some quick updates on those. McAvoy is skating in a non-contact jersey.
Yep.
Which is good to see.
He's
skating with the bubble.
Pounds.
I know. Have you seen his face?
He looks so good though.
Oh,
no more chubby Charlie.
Chiseled.
He's got that chiseled jawline now. He looks good. And you know what though? He lost 20 pounds. I think I saw a post where it said he's at 191 pounds now. And you know what? I don't think he's lost too much weight because he has a bigger frame. He's a bigger dude. But I would like to see him get back up to 200 of solid muscle, of 9 pounds of solid muscle. That would really help his game. And I think, him at 200 would really help him a lot. Just maintain the physical nature of his style of play, not to be able to be pushed around or whatnot. But he looks good. He needs to get some more weight on him. Like I said, 9 pounds up to 200. I think that's his perfect weight. But it was funny. He's like, yeah, I'm living off of soups. Don't ever try to blend up solid proteins and try to drink it because it's miserable.
Yeah.
It's one of those things, but I'm glad to see him back on the ice. And you know what? From the clips that I did see, he looks like he's engaged. He looks like, he's making the necessary steps to get back into the lineup, and he doesn't look awful. He looks pretty decent. He looks, he looks at one of those guys where, hey, he's missed a chunk of time that, he's obviously going to need some time to get back on the ice and, just kind of get back into the flow of things. But once he's back, he's kind of going to be back,
Yeah. And listen, 20 pounds may seem like a lot, but when you're on a liquid diet and you're an athlete, your metabolism is crazy. He will get that weight back. Trust me. As soon as he can actually eat like a normal human being, so to speak, like, like he is going to get that weight back. So like that 20 pounds, as much as people are like, oh my God, that's 20 pounds. I don't consider it like real weight. Like, you know what I mean? That's like, most people on a liquid diet will see that weight loss, but as soon as they start eating food again, you're going to see it like right back.
Well, it's funny because it's like it's like baby fat, right?
Yep.
he's kind of just lost baby fat. Like it's like no more chubby Charlie. It's like chiseled jawline Charlie. Like it's
chubby Charlie.
I
I
don't really
love chubby.
I mean, it works, but I think he looks like a handsome fella with that jawline now. So I'm right there with it. I'm sure his wife's loving it too.
Steve's got a man crush on Charlie McAvoy. Take note, everybody.
No,
he does. He lost 20 pounds, but he looks good.
Geeky.
Hardcore. Yeah. You can hear me, Geeky.
Yeah.
I love you. By the way, real quick on this, did you see? Because we'll transition to Pastrnak. Did you see Zadorov went to a Celtics game? Just on thinking of like funny things, and the camera pointed to him in Pastrnak, and he just chugs a beer.
Yeah.
Did you hear his comments afterwards? He just goes, "Well, I've gone to like 15 games, and like I never get the camera on me, but the one time I go with Pastrnak, the camera's on me, so I figured I had to just take advantage of it. You know what I mean? I had to do it for the fans." Like
there you go.
Nikita Zadorov, certified man of the people.
Yeah, man of the people.
Certified man of the people. The secondary injury was obviously David Pastrnak, and that's perhaps the biggest. Is skating, but I don't believe he's skating with the group. He's skating on his own. For the last time that I've read it, that could obviously change by the time this podcast is released. Again, just good to see him skating. I looked over and over at the video of his injury again. It just looked like he tweaked his groin or something in his hip. And we've known over the last couple of years that that's where he's had struggles before. So hopefully, he can get back to 100%. And I like the way Marco Sturm is handling it.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, he's your star player, obviously. And, you want him back as close to as 100% as possible, right? It's not, you're in a good position right now. Unless they start like losing games repeatedly and going on, a 10-game losing streak, and it's like, hey, we need somebody to step it up here. You know what I mean? But they're finding ways to win, get him healthy, because that'll pay dividends in the long run.
I agree. I don't disagree there. And good credit. Like, I think Marco Sturm's handling it very well. He even said it that, he wants to see him get a few skates in. He wants to see him, practices. He wants to see him do this. Like, it seems like he actually cares. And it seems like he's taking that same approach with all of his players.
Mm-hmm. Agreed.
We talked about people stepping up. And one guy I think that has done it on the first line, at least over this stretch of games, has been Alexander Steeves. He deserves a ton of credit. 6 goals, 13 in his last 13 games. Him and it's also fair to bring up Marat Husnudinov too, who was also doing well on the first line, but I don't think as well as Alexander Steeves was.
Mm-hmm.
I think he just took his game a bit to a higher level, and that line of Steeves, Lindholm, and Geeky is actually surprisingly working. I like it.
I like it too. And you know what? I was looking over the stats with the goals, assists kind of record. They're getting all of them. All those guys are getting involved in the play, right? Like, it's very rare to see, just one of those guys getting a goal or assist. Like, 2 of 3 of them are usually on the point sheet there, and it just looks like they're working really well together.
I hate to say it because I can't believe it, and I'm going to bring it up. Tanner Jeannot just keeps finding ways to make me eat my words. He does. He's doing good. I can't complain about him, and that irks me that I can't because dare I say this, Steve? He's performing better than Trent Frederick would have on this same team.
Yeah.
Because in Edmonton, Trent Frederick ain't doing nothing. They put Trent Frederick with McDavid, didn't do nothing. Tanner Jeannot on a line with Fraser Minton, albeit this is a third line, and that's where Frederick is probably best utilized. But again, I think if you were to put Frederick on this line with Minton and Kastelic, arguably I think it should be Lysell or somebody else. But as the line sits, Jeannot, Minton, and Kastelic, I don't think Frederick would be performing to the way Jeannot is.
My problem with Frederick is he has glimpses of like, oh, you're gonna make me believe, and then he goes out and has a bad 10-game stretch, and it's like, oh, you were so close to like making me a believer. Again, I'm not sold on Jeannot. Like, I'm really not. Like, but he is playing well. I won't deny credit. I kind of have like that Thanos attitude with him where it's like, I don't even think about you. You know what I mean? Like,
I don't even know who you are.
like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't even think about you. It's just like, but from obviously watching the games, it's like, all right, well, he's not fucking up for me to complain about it. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
It's he's skating by and doing his job, right? And I'm just like, oh, okay, like maybe I did blow it out of proportion, but like, if you come with the coming week and he fucks up bad, I'm gonna be all over his ass. Like, it's very much like one of those things where like I'll give credit where credit's due.
He's one of those players. He's one of those players that you already have like this negative look on him because of the contract. Like, again, the contract was done by Sweeney, not by him. So it's kind of hard to blame him for that, but it's more like a knock on Sweeney. But like, it's this weird element where he is one of those players where it's like Arvidsson, he's $4 million. So it's just kind of like, these are like the scapegoat players that are making that money. And then you just got to look like, could we really not have spent this better elsewhere? But then if you look at the stats, like Trent Frederick has 3 points in 29 games. Jeannot has 12 and 30.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
So I would have expected the opposite. And Jeannot has 3 goals, 9 assists. That's your 12 points right there.
Well, it's funny too, because like, I'll put this out there. That contract is Don Sweeney's fault. If I'm sitting there as Tanner Jeannot in his boots, right? Like, of course I'm going to take that deal. It's a damn good deal. Like, would you take that deal? I'd take that deal. Like,
okay, you inglorious bastard. Would you take that? I'd take that deal, sir. Damn good deal.
It's a damn good deal. Like, for him as the player, right? Like, when you're looking at it as an upper management type thing, that's not a good deal. But in a player's standpoint, it's a great deal, and of course he'd be a fool not to take it, right? Like, that's just what it comes down to. And I don't blame Tanner Jeannot for the contract itself. I blame Don Sweeney because I think everyone knows that listens. I can't stand Don Sweeney. I think most Bruins fans are fed up with him. But again, I'm not going to complain about a guy who's doing his job and not costing us games.
Yeah. I mean, he's had some bad turnovers, but like, you want to know, so hasn't like, Zadorov, McAvoy, and some of your top players have had bad turnovers. So if you're gonna ream Tanner Jeannot for making a bad turnover, you should ream Pastrnak, McAvoy, you should ream those players too. Like, you know what I mean? They happen, and like, you got to when you analyze that stuff, you got to be fair, and I will be fair. But even right now, Steve, I got to tell you, I'm starting to look at that, and the only piece of that contract is that I don't like is that NTC. That change, like, it's modified, but outside of that, right now, it's actually looking like a good deal. He's on pace for 30 points. I can't complain.
Yeah. Of course, he's going to make us eat our words. Like, 20 points is strong for him, right? He's already over halfway there. Like, it's like, fuck.
I know. I do remember you said that to Whitey, and you said like, oh, I think 20 is strong enough for points. I will say this: if he scores 20 goals, you and I need to owe Whitey an apology.
Yeah.
I, I that's when we'll
I'm
get
already
him
doing my
back on here.
pre-apology here. Like he's already over on pace to get 30 points, and I said 20 was strong for him, and it's like okay, like he's already halfway in 30 games in. And it's like all right, like it might come down to the wire, but I'll probably eat those words.
Oh, that's gonna be like the worst because that's gonna be really hard for me to swallow. I
Me too.
I can admit when I'm wrong, Steve. That this one will be hard for me to swallow. Like that one's you're gonna see me saying it while biting a pillow. Like I'm just
Yeah,
gonna like it's gonna be
of
nuts.
course. I feel the same way. It's like, well, am I gonna make the apology and make the amends and own up to what I said and
Yeah.
clear the air? Of course. Am I gonna like doing it? Hell no.
Hell
Hell
no.
no. But am I gonna do it anyways? Yes, because it's the right thing to do.
I did feel like though Tanner Jeannot is definitely an important player to bring up because he has done his job, and I
Yep.
think he does make that third line slightly better. Again, I just think the one thing that is missing from that third line is an actual offensive threat. And not to say that Minton is not to say that Jeannot can't be at times, but I think you just need a speedy skater. And again, that could be Lysell, it could be Blumel. You just need someone with some essence of I'm going to shoot the puck first. It could be Arvidsson if you get a right wing, at the trade deadline, or maybe you move Geeky down. There just needs to be, I think, a smidge more of an offensive threat
Yep.
for that third line, and then you let the fourth line be your identity line,
Yep.
With your grit. And I honestly think the fourth line does need Kastelic on it. I love Eyssimont, Corrali, and Kastelic together. I would like to see them back. There's something missing on that fourth line that I think having Kastelic there will help.
Well, who's to say when all these, when our injuries kind of settle down that, Kastelic won't go back down to the third line or fourth line, excuse me. To be fair, I think that third line is kind of your identity line right now.
Arguably, yeah. I mean, it's
The way
heavy
they
hitting.
play. It's heavy hitting. They bring the physicality. They're fighting in the corners. They're doing the down dirty, get greasy type goal type game, right? It's that I think the third line is your identity line, and your fourth line is out there just to, give lines
Close
1 and
out.
2, close out, but gives line 1 and 2, a break out there. You know what I mean? It's one of those things where, your identity is arguably on the third line.
Here's the challenge when Pastrnak comes back, because a lot of players have made their case to stay. Husnudinov has made his case to stay on the main roster. Steeves definitely made his case. And those two are likely going to be on the outside looking in terms of who's going to get that spot. Out of those two, Steve, on a normal basis, because we could argue that yes, some of them will be matchup dependent, of course, but on a night-to-night basis, who is your pick out of those two individuals? Out of Marat or Steeves, who would you rather have? Because it's not going to be in a top line capacity. Actually, even Eyssimont.
To be honest with you, I'm going with the guy who's been really hot and impressive, okay. Steeves. Yep. Like, I can't. It's not to take away from Marat. It's not to take away from Eyssimont. I think on the scale of 1, 2, 3, it'd be Steeves, Marat, and then Eyssimont.
Oh, really? I see.
Yeah.
I'm similar to you. I would have Steeves, Eyssimont, then Marat. There's just I think there's just something about Eyssimont, and I would just prefer him in the playoffs. But go ahead, I'll listen to you.
Okay. For playoffs, it might change, especially, let's say you end up getting Florida for the first round. You're going to need, I think, an Eyssimont-esque type player is going to do a little bit better against a Florida team, right? I think, let's just say like Leafs, right? Like I'm just throwing names out there. Obviously, we're way far ahead. If we're playing the Leafs, I think Marat gets that spot just to try to like, you know, I think it's not as downright heavy. You know what I mean? I think it's matchup dependent, but on a nightly basis to get you to the playoffs, it's definitely Steeves for me. But I do think that there's something special about Marat. And I think, we're talking about like, oh, that third line that needs somebody with, shoot first mentality. I think, Marat could do that.
Sure. By the way, quick shout out to Toronto for giving us another player. Like Alex Steeves was a Toronto Marley. Thank you, Toronto. God, you guys suck.
Yep.
Like, you guys are just so bad. Oh, man.
It's hilarious though. Like the ability, like, okay, credit where credit's due. The ability of Don Sweeney to fleece the not Montreal, to fleece the Toronto Maple Leafs. Sorry, is just astonishing to me. Like it really is.
We got a first round pick, which by the way is now looking to be, it could be potentially between pick 6 and 10.
Yep.
For Brandon Carlo, and on top of that, they gave us a very high ceiling third line center, possibly could end up being on the second line depending on how he develops. Now, I think that's a little bit of a reach for Minton right now, but he's certainly playing like a very responsible two-way forward that will have a solidified spot in the third line. That's just where I see him presently until he can show me otherwise. But he's definitely a young kid with tremendous talent. Thanks, Toronto. By the way, thanks for that potential top 10 pick, except within 6 to 10.
I think his upside and ceiling is really good. I think that the potential for him to be, again, a top 6 guy is there. I think that ceiling is at top 6, probably second line, right? But again, you're kind of building it up for the future of like, oh, this guy could be something, and I think that's kind of important, especially with looking in at last year in the off season where it's like, where do we go from here? And obviously some of that's paying out, right?
Rome wasn't built in a day, baby, and this empire are gonna run it.
My God.
There's your history major quote for you, Steve.
Oh, appreciate it. Oh my God.
All right. Guys, before we move on to the Big Bad Bruin, we do have an announcement regarding the Providence Bruins signed stick giveaway. The winner of that giveaway is going to be announced on December 22nd during a live show of HiBruiNation, which will start at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. No more submissions are being taken. So if you have not already done it, unfortunately, you've lost your opportunity to be part of the drawing. But thank you for those who did already submit, and good luck to you. And we hope to see you on December 22nd, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for the drawing. Steve, that's going to be an exciting day.
Yes, it is.
It's going to be amazing. Yeah,
great.
We did change. We had to change the date of final submissions due to scheduling conflicts, and we just wanted to make sure that we had the capacity to do what we had envisioned to do for the giveaway. So again, thank you for those who submitted. And for those of you who hope to had hoped to submit, I'm sorry, there will be another prize next year. All right, Big Bad Bruin. For me, this one was easy because it's been consistent. I gave him honorable mention last week, but his consistent level of play on the first line and elevating it has impressed me. And every week I try to challenge myself to actually look at the players who have played. I'm going to give it to Alex Steeves. Again, it's 6 goals in his last 13. He deserves it. He can show he can play on the top line minutes, and just another potential steal from Toronto. Thanks, by the way, guys. Again, it's too easy. To me, he just earns it. He earns it. Don't say Tanner no, Steve. Don't say it.
For me, it's Steeves as well. I mean, I think you kind of just summed it up. It was so blatantly obvious that this kid is taking the opportunity to try to impress management, impress coaching, and his consistent level of play is just, it's been noticeable all week. And honestly, if people get mad out there for both of us agreeing, on this guy. It's like go back and watch those games and tell me he's not
He's
the most
pivotal.
noticeable person on that ice. You know, despite the Detroit game, right? Whatever, but sit out there and tell me that we're wrong, because again, he's been so noticeable in this past week. It's blatantly obvious that this kid is definitely earned this week.
Yeah. Again, scapegoats. You could say geeky. Sure. But right now, I'm at the point where I'm still impressed with geeky, but not as impressed as I would be. But I have to give credit to some of these kids who are stepping into a situation on a team. Like, let's look at it honestly, guys. Like, maybe this Bruins team on paper, comparatively speaking to other teams in the NHL, it's really not that good, but they're playing like they're good. And they're doing that because of guys like Alexander Steeves, Marat Husnadinov, that are coming into this lineup and giving you something that you're missing. So, again, Alex Steeves. And since we agree, my favorite part of all of this is the horn.
You know what I want to touch on too, real quick, is like all these guys that have been stepping up, right? They're not squandering opportunities.
Nope.
And I think that's the most important part. It's one of those things where, you can get guys come up and look like shit, right? But all the guys that have been coming up, despite these injuries, into kind of that next man up mentality, they're not squandering their opportunities. And I think that's just as important, because, it's not every day you get called up to the show, especially being, like a young kid, and, we just talked about this, right? Where, okay, well, when Pasta comes back, who's getting sent back down? And then you're making the coach's job and making upper management's job really difficult to sit there and be like, who do we keep up here? Who's that? And you know what? That's the point of it. You want the upper management, if you're in the position of Steeves and Marat, you want them to be in that bad situation, because it's a reflection of you on how well you're playing, right? And you might just have to take it with a grain of salt, but that's okay, because you're making them think about who to send up and who to send down. And that's the whole point of this. Don't squander your opportunities.
I will say this, and it's not to say that they're squandering their opportunities, but the Bruins defensive end is banged up. So like people like Callahan, McAvoy, Yogi Haru, these guys are just getting hurt. So it's that's the hard part too. So you mentioned like calling them up to the show and just like squandering opportunities. That's just one thing I wanted to clarify.
Yeah,
we're not talking about players who are getting injured in the game or anything like that, because that we're going to exclude that, because that's not fair to the player who only plays like maybe 10 minutes of a game and then goes down. You know what I mean? It's not fair. Aspro is another one that I would actually like to say and throw up there as an honorable mention too. He's playing well in a position where you really wouldn't normally see a guy like that. So good. Honestly, congratulations to Steeves. Again, not you, Steve, Alex Steeves. But and Aspro, I'll give honorable mention to Aspro as well. I'll give you that too, for those of you who will try to argue Aspro.
Fair enough.
Let's take a look at the week ahead. Again, I think it's a somewhat easy week, but it's a mid-level week. On Tuesday, we have St. Louis. Thursday, we have Winnipeg. You're actually going to be surprised with what I have to say about Winnipeg. And then we have Minnesota on Sunday. I have a win against St. Louis because, again, another hot and cold team. And I think we may get Pastrnak back, maybe. I don't know. But they're also hurt on injuries. And I think we just beat them again. This one might be a little bit of a narrower victory, I think. Yep. Winnipeg, I actually have a win. Connor Hellebuck is injured. And Comrie and their backup, not good. Beatable. This is the game I would consider more of a toss-up. But I think the Bruins can find themselves on the winning side of this game very easily, especially if they can get to their game a lot faster than Winnipeg can. Because you're really starting to see how Winnipeg really needs Connor Hellebuck. Unless it's the playoffs, then they could probably do without him. I think honestly, a feather and the net would have made more saves in the playoffs than Connor Hellebuyck did last year. That's how bad it was. Minnesota, I have a loss, and I'm going to tell you why. That kid, Wallstat, is nuts. And I think he is the type of goaltender that can steal you that game. Not to mention that I think the Minnesota Wild are getting better as the season goes, so to speak. And so it's just going to be interesting to see that game. I think that's the one loss we see this week.
I got W's across the board.
Woo!
Yeah, no, I mean, I think you should win against St. Louis again. Again, like you said, maybe it'll be a little bit closer than what it was, but I still have them as a W. I think that, again, hot and cold team, and it's just one of those things where are we going to catch them? Are they still going to be cold? Right. But I think that the Bruins are playing very well to the point where we should have a convincing win. And then Winnipeg, now that, you know, the Iron Curtain there is fallen, it kind of adds question marks for me for the goaltending. And, you know, as of late, since he's been hurt, they really haven't played too well. And I think the Bruins have been playing, again, better than what we've expected, and they've been consistently putting out. And I think, you know, our lines right now, even with all the injuries, they're pretty solid, and I don't see why they can't win that game. And, you know, against Minnesota, I agree they're getting better as the season goes on, but, you know, I still
they're the Leafs of the West.
They kind of are. They're that perpetual, you know, perpetual playoff team that doesn't go and do anything. You know, I think they're good and they're getting better, but I'm not convinced that they're going to, you know, make a deep cup run. I'm not convinced that they have a crazy amount of talent that, you know, if we keep playing like we're playing against, especially, you know, that New Jersey game, why shouldn't we win that game? You know, if we can get,
I agree.
If we can get consistent effort like we did against New Jersey, we should win out the week.
I will agree with you. Like I said, the only thing that's convincing me Minnesota can squeak away with it is because Wallstat, like that rookie goaltender, is playing out of his godforsaken mind. Dude.
True.
Like he
we have
is.
Swayman. Like if Swayman pulls out what he pulled, if Swayman pulls out what he pulled out against New Jersey,
yeah, then I agree with you. I think honestly that's going to be my game of the week. That's going to be the game I'm looking forward to, and I hope they play Wallstat. If they play Gustafsson, I think we have a better opportunity because I think Gustafsson has not played that well. But if you're going to play if the goalies are for that game are going to be Swayman and Wallstat, I think that might be the best game to watch this week because you're going to have some good talent. I mean, and if you have Pastrnak back on that, great, because then it's Pastrnak versus Kaprizov. I'm looking forward to that. That's probably, if everything goes the way we just said it, I think that might be your best game to watch this week. Maybe.
Yep. Maybe. I'm actually really excited again to see Winnipeg. Actually.
For me, I think it's the goaltending. Do you think Swayman or Corpy gets Winnipeg? Because there's so many days between Thursday and Sunday. Any one of them could get Minnesota on Sunday.
I don't know, to be honest with you. I have a hunch that Corpy's getting the start against St. Louis.
Again, because he got the start this past week. I would go opposite because Swayman has yet to see St. Louis, so I would say Swayman, and then I would say Corpy, and then I would say Swayman.
Yeah, I like that. I don't know, though. I kind of like Corpy Sway for this upcoming week.
Okay.
Because
all right.
If your goaltender is going to steal you a game, I think it needs to be the Winnipeg game.
Yeah, you do have to respect Winnipeg. Their offense is, you got to respect them. Their defense is pretty, yeah.
That's how I feel about it. But I'm really looking forward to watching, you know, the Bees versus Winnipeg, because Winnipeg's one of those teams where, you know, when they're good, they're really good, and when they're bad, they're like, okay, like they still play pretty decently the past couple of years. So it's just one of those things where, I'm interested in seeing how we respond to with how our defense responds to their offensive capabilities down there, and going from there.
Now, mind you, they're on the outside looking in right now, Winnipeg, in terms of the playoffs. Minnesota's in the playoffs. I think St. Louis is also on the outside looking in. But again, like, Winnipeg, you can't sleep on a team that is hungry. So you sleep on them, you end up losing the game. So that's
exactly.
But I like our chances more with Winnipeg than I think I do Minnesota, just because I don't know. Again, it's the goaltending thing for me, but you also bring up a good point with Swayman. It's going to be a fun week. I think this actually might be a really fun week. Something in me says like this is going to be a fun week for Bruins hockey, especially with another rematch against Montgomery, and then you go to Winnipeg and then Minnesota. I don't know, just fun teams. I think these are just going to be fun teams to watch. Steve, final thoughts before we close out.
I don't really got anything. I left it all on the table.
I left it on the table. I'll leave it all on the ice. Leave it all on the ice, baby. That's what we do. I don't really have much to say except to remind you guys, December 22nd, that is going to be our live show. That is going to be at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Be there or be square.
It's going to be a good one.
It's going to be a good one. It's going to be awesome. Listen, it's Christmas time, baby. It's freaking Christmas time. Whether you celebrate or not, you better be fucking happy. Be happy.
Happy holidays,
jolly. Yeah. French fries, motherfucker. Give me gifts, motherfucker. No, so please, if you're traveling, we understand, but try to tune in. It's gonna be live. We're gonna love to have some conversations with you guys, the fans. Again, we're gonna make the announcement of the stick giveaway, or we might have someone special make the announcement. Hint, hint, wink, wink, nudge, nudge. So just be aware of that. And we'll see you then. But until next time, guys, I don't know. What do we say? We say go Bruins. All right. Peace.